Happy Friday, everyone. It is that time of the week for the Cannabis Events Talk Show, produced by eventhi, and I am your host, Adelia Carrillo. I am the CMO over here at eventhi, and the Cannabis Events Talk Show is a show that covers all about cannabis events, experiences, and tourism. We keep you updated on the hottest topics from current news, trends, interviews with event guests, to marketing tips, and so much more. Now, for those that are unfamiliar with our show, how it works is each week I invite a special guest to join us, and then we start off with a interview segment. So I'll interview that special guest, and then we'll actually dive into a couple industry news articles, and then that'll be the wrap up of the show. I have a couple call to actions at the end, but we just like to keep it very specific, on target, and focused around cannabis events, experiences, and tourism. So before we bring on our guest, I do like to check in on the platforms that we are streaming on. So if you are joining us from Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, please give us a comment and let us know where you're joining us from today. So I am going to check out. We are live, loud and clear on Facebook, and we are live, loud and clear on Twitter. And now let's check up on our LinkedIn, folks. We are live on LinkedIn. And there we go. All right. So now let's get to the good stuff. I am just so excited to introduce you all to this week's co-host. Her name is Ishqa Hillman, CEO of the Canna Boss Babes. Ishqa hadn't planned on going into cannabis, but like so many others, it both healed and called her into service. Now, in late 2019, she left her corporate life of over 20 years in human resources, sales, customer service, operations, business administration, and marketing for large and small businesses. She actually began helping women in the cannabis industry. Been helping women in the cannabis industry who are struggling to navigate the complexities of the industry, the boys club, and surviving and thriving as a business. Now, her ability to connect with people was immediately put to good use, helping to coordinate educational cannabis networking events such as CBD Sundays, Canna Gather, and other events across Orange County and Los Angeles. Now, she formed the Canna Boss Babes as an entrepreneurial support platform, which allowed her to build a more sustainable system and grew her community by nearly 8,000 organic followers by providing a safe space to share cannabis stories worldwide. Now she is putting her focus back on the work she loves, which is helping individuals and businesses grow sustainably in the direction they desire. So with that being said, let's give a warm welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you, Adelia. I'm really good. I'm very honored to be here and having this conversation with you today. Thank you.
Yes, it's long overdue. And, I'm just so honored as well. Now, I did go in and gave a little bit about a history about your background, but let's dive into a little bit more into why the cannabis industry.
Because a cannabis event just changed my life. I went to an event called the High LBC, put on by the Long Beach Collective Association, which is a trade association of different cannabis operators here in Long Beach. And it was when I was first exposed to just the simple knowledge that we have an endocannabinoid system. And for me, that was really significant at that time because I had just been coming out of a 4-year-long severe social anxiety, bout where I was really only going to work for 4 years. And I found that cannabis was helping me at night. And so to go to an event and find out that there's science behind it was just very validating, but it also really helped. It helped snap everything, and my purpose just became more clear.
That's good. That's all. That is similar, like to what similar stories. A cannabis event or a cannabis healing component is really what brought them to the plant, whether it was for them personally or for a friend. And
Yeah.
and we're excited and glad that you've been here and put so much time the past few years that you have been, and you've already created such an impact, and it's huge, you know. And I can't wait to share some of the stories you shared with me earlier.
Yeah.
But now, you know, a little bit more about the Canna Boss Babes. You know, what can people expect from that? How can they join the group? Yeah, tell us more.
So the Canna Boss Babes really started as an entrepreneurial support platform. We wanted to be able to, you know, I just met so many amazing women initially, but men too. Everyone is a babe. Everyone's a babe.
I love that.
So many incredible men in this industry and in this community. And, you know, I'm a single mom who raised a girl alone for, well, she's 21 now. So, a long time, and to find a community that really, um, you know, provides such holistic support. It was, you know, sad to see so many people still feeling so lonely and alone. And I think that, you know, we're still finding that, but I feel like it's a lot less now. There are places where people can go. And so it was just important to create safe space. And, you know, while my first event was a positive experience, I did have a few negative cannabis event experiences as well, where people are just less respectful, maybe living up more to the stereotype. And as a woman who was, you know, professional and then had a daughter who was of age, like that didn't always feel safe. So wanting to make sure that there were events where I could invite people from my corporate life, where I can invite people to really, you know, break that bubble a little bit and help break that stigma. I think that's really important.
That is, yes. Now, you know, going into a little bit more about the events that you were creating, you know, what kind of events were you hosting maybe, you know, pre-COVID? And then what's in the future? What type of events can we look towards?
Yeah. So, I mean, before COVID, we were able to do things in person. That's when I really started working with Rico Lamitte and the Suave Life and helping him organize the Canna Gathers and the CBD Sundays. I had actually, that's part of where and how the Canna Boss Babes really started birthing and bringing everyone together, was under his tutelage. And so it was just really awesome, to start community building. So we had our first CBD Sundays here in Long Beach that was launched by the Canna Boss Babes. That was amazing. Yeah, we had yoga. We had all kinds of vendors. We had Chef Amanda, who of course was on the Netflix show and is just amazing. You know, we had just a lot of different people who I think, just needed to come together, and who as a result ended up doing a lot more business together. And that's really what it was about. There are so many restrictions on this industry as a business that when I came in, here I am like, oh, all these business practices that I've put to use in all these other businesses all these years, let's do them here. And oh no, wait, there is no financing. Oh no, wait, there's no payroll like normal either. Oh wait, there's no, insurance. Oh wait, there's no marketing. Well, how do you function? And oh, taxes are like more than overhead for most other businesses. So, it I like a challenge. And then see, and yeah, there was no way I couldn't. So the events that we did really were to bring people together and provide support. I like, mixing outside industries with this that are complementary, things like yoga, you know, the yoga and wellness, skincare. My friend Tamara with Culinary and Cannabis, we've partnered on a lot of events. One we're most proud of was actually during COVID, and it was last year in February. We collabed with the Long Beach Green Room and we did a Celebrating Black Cannabis box. And so we did a box and virtual event where we interviewed and had participating in the box 14 different Black owned brands, CBD and cannabis. And we put together education pieces, and Ms. Kindness was a part of that, and Club Kindness put together a beautiful piece on Black history, which is cannabis history.
Mm-hmm.
And it really helped people become aware, and we sold out actually in 2 months. So
Wow,
yeah, it was amazing.
that is huge. Well, and it seems like, you know, when it comes to the events and everything that you are providing always does go back to your why. And it always goes back to that entrepreneurial and business, skill sets of wanting to connect everybody and wanting their businesses to flourish. So it's really cool to see how it evolves in every areas of that, of the Canna Boss Babes.
I have a saying, you dream it, let's do it. And that's really where a lot of these events have come from is, just that. Like we had another successful event last summer, Babes in the Bay, that I just thought maybe 30 people would show up to. I was like, oh, it's a content day. Brands and influencers and whoever wants to come will just come and collab. And it's a day at the beach at the lagoon here. 150 people showed up.
Wow.
And there were so many amazing, just content created and networking opportunities and business done from that. I mean, we had, attorneys all the way through to, bud tenders to media, there was a delivery truck that showed up. It was just, tarot readers. It was just a really beautiful day of community. And I think that's what we're known for, right? Like that's really what it is that we do is same as I am here, I'm in person. Funny when people meet me in person and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to talk to you. I'm like, oh my God, why? I'm probably more afraid to talk to you. Social anxiety. But yeah, it's community, and it's really just being our authentic selves and trusting and knowing that that's what connects us.
Yes. Well, again, you do it. So it's so great to see how it has evolved and what, like just hearing that, you were thinking 30 people were going to join and 150 showed up. And, I think that just, like you said, it shows how much the community needs it and how much the community appreciates it. Now, as you mentioned, you have worked closely with CBD Sundays, Canna Gather, also the events that you were hosting as well. What are 3 tips you learned that helped you with your own events?
Plan in advance. I think a lot of events don't give themselves enough time. And I know I've not always given myself enough time or as much time as I would like. There's a balance to that. Don't be too perfectionistic either. Make sure you go and take steps and don't just stay stuck in analysis paralysis. But definitely give yourself enough time to do it right. Sponsors need time to budget. Your ask may not be the right ask the first time out. That's something that I'm doing a lot of work on now, is helping other events, really figure out what their ask is, helping them, whether it's a deck or a one sheet or just how to talk, right? Like sometimes just how do I say this? How do I get my message across? And so, that, and then organization, like really thinking through the customer journey. I think that's something that a lot of people don't think through either. One thing I feel like I can always tell when the men plan events, because there's no parking for us ladies. And when it's somewhere in downtown LA, like I'm not walking that far alone. You need to have someone come get me, or valet, or and then the bathrooms, right? Like it's the parking in the bathrooms for the girls. We know when it's not the girls planning is because that's not a thing. And so, just really thinking through the customer journey and making sure that you plan in advance, and then making sure your sponsorship money and your venue are there. Like, don't do it if you don't have it.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't do it if you don't have it. It's okay. You can push it off.
Yeah.
Or you can do something smaller, change what it is. Like my little Babes in the Bay event, we were at the beach. It was a free day at the beach. I didn't charge anybody. It was a free day at the beach. Things don't always have to cost $1,000.
That's very true. Yeah. There's so many ways out there. And you're right. It's just about getting creative, pivoting, and people will understand, whether you can always find a way to fine tune the verbiage, like you said, how to describe it. If you have to change something, there's always a way to change it.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you more about is, why is building a community important for this plant? And then the second part is, what can others expect? Well, actually, no, let's go more into this first. Why is building a community important for this plant?
The freedom. There's, healing and there's healing, and with healing comes freedom. And I think that as a mother, I always wanted to give my daughter something natural before I had to give her something prescribed. And not that I didn't trust my doctors. I totally did. Like, okay, you know, doctor says she needs Tylenol, no problem. Now she takes CBD, but that's okay. And so really having that knowledge, having that awareness. And then also for me, you know, I had a lot of anxiety as a result of a lot of childhood trauma, which I look at from parents who would have benefited from this plant medically as well. And so, you know, when I look at how stigmatized this plant has become, and what a barrier that is. You know, when I first found out we had an endocannabinoid system, like I immediately saw two things. I saw people in prisons and locked up over a lie. Yeah. And I saw people who what felt like me, because I was still like the last few months of my corporate life, in this golden gilded cage where I felt so trapped and so pressurized to perform and provide and just a lot. Yeah. And that this system within our bodies, when treated properly, can help us balance all of that. Mm-hmm. It felt, and does, it just feels diabolical. It feels very unfair. And when I look at how stressed this world is and how overstimulated we are to try and achieve the American dream, right? Mm-hmm. That's not even like, there's not enough for everybody. So it's not sustainable anyway. So what the fuck? I just trip out on that. We all deserve at least the knowledge to know what our bodies are. We go to school, we learn all these things. Why don't we learn that? We have a right to know what is known.
Yes, that's so true.
So, yeah.
Now, and going back to it, you know, with kind of wrapping that around to the community component and then going back to the Canna Boss Babes, you know, what can they expect when becoming is it a member? Would they become a member for the organization?
Everyone's a babe. You know, Sure, I have an email list. You can sign up for an email and I'll keep you updated with different things that are going on, and not as often as I wish I did. And, you know, I'm going to get better at that. You'll see. Yes. But, you know, yeah, everyone's a babe. It's, you know, I wish I could say follow the page. Instagram took the page in November after being nominated for Best Podcast again. And so, you know, it happens in this community. It's just a sad thing where because of the federal laws, we don't have the support. You'd think that we live in a country with free speech and that we're talking about medicine in states that are legal, that it would be okay, but it's still not. But in the meantime, I'm keeping the interviews going on my page. So you can follow me on the website. You can follow me on my Instagram. I am Ishqa the Boss Babe. We've got it right there below. I love this app. And, you know, the conversations are never going to stop. Like, I'm on every platform. You can search for me on other platforms. Those are the two that I'm the most active. But the community is important. And I just want to share this story about my dear friend Carl, because I know, like, you get me crying, but I do that all the time, so it's okay. This show's really important and the work is really important. And there's days that I've questioned that. Like, there's days we do that as entrepreneurs and we question what we're doing and why. And I was blessed yesterday because I checked in on an old friend of mine on Facebook, and he's a newer old friend, but he's an old friend from the beginning. And he started watching the Canna Boss Babes under an alias, and he'd never give his name and he'd never come on live, and everyone can come on live. And after about a year and a half going live, he says, I think I'm ready. And his name is Carl Wagner, and he lives in Indiana, where they don't even have medical cannabis legal. And he is a teacher, And he, after that experience coming live with me, shared on his Facebook page one of the most beautiful coming out letters I've ever read in my life. And he has not stopped from there. He actually started a Facebook group that when I went in and checked on his little Facebook group, because I got to check on him every so often, it was 828 people deep.
That's huge.
And there are people interacting on that group. And I just had to give him some love and some shout out. You know, that's got to get approved by the administrator, and he's the administrator. So I knew that would be. But he shared that, and it just was such a beautiful message. And you know, that's why this is important. It's these stories, and it's not the stories of just the Kyle Cushmans, and it's not just the stories of the big brands. It's the stories of everybody. It was this, you know, there's never anybody too big or too small to come on the Canna Boss Babes, because it's about our shared stories. You know, I interviewed a woman the other day. She doesn't even use cannabis. She just wanted to come on and share what she's doing. And that's totally okay too, because I had an opportunity to teach her and ask her, well, did you know you have an endocannabinoid system? And she sure didn't. So it was a moment of learning for her and for learning for us what she is doing. And in her case, it was she's going into a new industry as a woman in the trucking industry and sharing about how many opportunities there are for women now in the trucking industry and how family friendly it is. Her son is in middle school and does homeschool. And now she gets to take him on the road with her and make a great living and travel with her son. So
that's so good. Well, you know, I think the biggest thing is just, you know, everything that when I think of the Canna Boss Babes, I really do think of community and community building, and, you know, just seeing like what Carl has done by, you know, just participating in your lives and watching them, and, you know, maybe joining the virtual events and seeing him now evolve to this 800 and something group. Like, that's amazing. And that's the impact. You know, I think that's the one thing we all have to remember is there's room for so many different communities, because we're all different humans. We all thrive and all need different support systems or things that attract us, you know, or not attract us, but interest us, you know? So, I'm excited to see the Canna Boss Babes continuing to move forward. And, you know, I know it was hard with the Instagram component, but you know, the content is memorable. You're creating new content, and the community is going to continue moving forward. Now, for future events, or even just, you know, to get involved with the Canna Boss Babes, how can people get involved, and where do you need help? How can people help?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I'm doing right now and what I really love doing is working with different brands to help create events or align them with events that are already happening. You know, I mentioned Culinary and Cannabis earlier. She has her Canna Spa. Well, that's going on tour. And I think actually, you know, I think we'll be seeing a little bit of you guys together as well with a blunt brunch at the end of the year. I'm really excited about. So, you know, there's just a lot of different opportunities everywhere, because I've created really an international audience, but a very strong national audience. You know, I'm hoping to be able to maybe even go on tour with her. So we're looking for brands and sponsors to be able to come on. She's got 5 cities for this year, and you know, looking to really help promote that. There's a lot of other events though too. I've been having a lot of conversations recently with a lot of other event planners who are looking for brands that align with them. I'm always working with brands that are looking for events that align with their brand. And so I'm just in this unique position of having built this network and being able to help align everybody. And then, you know, I do my coaching. So for individuals and for business owners, you know, sometimes we just need a perception switch, you know, when we're around, you know, that's what I love about consulting and I've always loved about consultants is you don't have to lose your team and change up your team. Your team's fine, but sometimes you need a little dose of color every once in a while, right? Like you need a little dose of something else just to get the team maybe moving in a new tune, right? Or in a new direction, or and yeah, I find things, I see things, I'm very quick and effective. So I love that. And a lot of the time it's just our own personal narrative.
Yes, true.
So I like to do that work too.
Good. Well, those that are tuning in that are brands that are interested in learning about some of the events, definitely connect. I will put your Instagram back up here as well. Is this the best route for them, or the Facebook
or the website? Either one's fine. Both have my contact information and are very easy to get a hold of me. So yeah.
Well, now it's time to dive into the article component. So for those that are just tuning in, how this works is I'm going to give an overview of 3 different articles, and then we're going to discuss them, and you'll share some insights that you have and thoughts. So the first article is article number 1, business owner says cannabis regulations hampering potential for cannabis tourism. So Dave Dormers, a company, is the owner of a company called Cannanaskis. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. They give an adult-only cannabis-focused tours in the Rocky Mountains and up until recently at a site in Calgary. Now, Dormer isn't licensed to provide cannabis to clients on his tours. Instead, he does focus more on education, and he does provide his clients with food and a safe and legal space to consume their own cannabis while on the tour. Now, the concept might seem simple. Building the business has taken quite a few years working with his insurance company, and obviously also trying to stay compliant, as he also works with government officials to ensure adherence to the rules. However, unfortunately, until recently, it had to come to a stop in March when the AGLC clarified the rules with Heritage Park, and Dormer was told that the AGLC's liquor license applies to the entirety of Heritage Park. The reason this is an issue is because they don't allow any cannabis consumption where there is a liquor license on site at all. So even if he's not providing liquor at his event, the license is still basically set for that whole compound, which is very unfortunate. So just one other thing I wanted to know, on top of that, I guess what is going to be happening in Calgary is that their new law, the bylaws, says that a regulated cannabis consumption area requires things as fencing, blackout screens, security staff. And unfortunately, this really frustrated Dormer. Despite that, the legal process that is now ensuing, cannabis is still not really legal to consume anywhere except one's home. So what are your thoughts on this article? I know they dove into some other areas. I'd love to hear your perspective.
I mean, that is the struggle. That is a very common struggle. That is almost everywhere except for Adelanto, which I still haven't fully figured out why, but good for them. I just wish it wasn't so far. Yeah. As you were first talking, I was like, oh, so he needs to partner with the delivery, right? But then when you think about the liquor license and covering in the space and the land, and the reason for that is the liquor license. And help me think this through. This is where I'm like, ooh, data. The liquor license, even though it's state issued, is a federal thing. And because cannabis is not legal federally is where then it becomes problematic, because everyone then with a liquor license is afraid they're going to lose their liquor license.
Yeah.
And so I understand the problem, but really the solution is because the state of California leaves it to local regulations and legislation to choose what we do with consumption. Yeah. So we actually legalized cannabis events here in Long Beach back in December 2019. We just haven't been able to do it, both because of the pandemic and then also, police and fire like to hold things up. So, but it's up to the local legislation. So I mean, in that case, you have to build a local campaign. That's the only way to do it. And it's going to take time. Most of the problem, though, and most of the pushback is they haven't figured out how to monetize it. So maybe we need to start helping them figure out how they could monetize it.
Yeah.
But that's yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen how they've done it at the Emerald Cup and maybe even a couple other festivals, but Emerald Cup is just the one that came to mind. They had an area where, they still had alcohol, but it was in an enclosed area.
Yeah.
And then they had cannabis consumption in other areas.
Yeah.
So, there's ways around it. And maybe, like you said, it is just the education component. Calgary just needs to get a little bit more informed on ways to do it safely and find ways where it won't impact that liquor license.
Sonoma County is making money off it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what county Calgary's in, but like help them figure out how to make money off it.
Yeah.
That was one of the things so we lowered the tax here in Long Beach in December 2019 too. It was a huge, massive thing because no one lowers taxes for anything, but somehow we managed to. So it was huge. 6 months later, and just a few months into the pandemic, City Council wanted to raise it again. The LBCA managed to go to them and say, hey, can we try something else for 6 months first? Can we try extending the hours of business instead? And instead of being open 9 to 9, let's be open 8 to 10 and see if that will generate the same income that you're looking for by increasing the tax. It not only generated that income, it like tripled, quintupled.
Wow.
So it's really being able to use, it's these conversations where we find these things out and then we're like, ooh, I need to get that data to show my city council. Right.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so next article. The next article is about the Artistry Studio Cannabis Lounge sparks the return of consumption lounges in Southern California. So the Artistry announced the return of their consumption lounge operations in Southern California, and they actually opened up this past 420. They opened the first location. The Artistry's first location was in 2019 as a new brand of cannabis businesses, creating one-of-a-kind destinations for art and cannabis exploration. Now, the Cannabis Smoking and Edible Lounge will offer a curated premium selection of dispensary retail items geared towards on-site consumption with single-serving items and smaller sizes of flower, pre-roll, and vapes. Guests will also enjoy tableside service set in a performance space, indoor and outdoor seating, and multiple non-smoking areas for edible consumption alongside non-infused food and drink options. They're going to be including breakfast, lunch, dinner, and mocktails. And this is in partnership with Kitchen 24. As mentioned, they reopened on 420 and they hosted an all-day event produced by Zane Pod, aka Flabbergast, which included a seated drag brunch and a ticketed variety show with unlimited food, musical performances, magicians, comedians, and activations from a host of cannabis brands. They're going to be doing ongoing weekly programming, including yoga and wellness classes, puff and paint, comedy shows, DJ performances, and much more. And the first thing I just thought, have you gone to this yet? Have you been to the?
I have not. No, I'm very excited though to go. Definitely need to start making some plans. Maybe call up the bad mother puffa, see if she wants to go with. Yeah, I think that sounds great. I want to check it out. I'm curious to see how it's going to compare with the Lowell Farms restaurant that was, existed pre-COVID. And, yeah, like, although is it post-COVID yet? I'm not sure, but let's say like no one's wearing masks anymore, so I think we're good. Post-COVID, just what, that's changed everybody and how things are. And I think I'm really curious to see how they are preventing the spread too in places like that. It is such a communal thing, and now they've created communal space, which is awesome and I want more of. But yeah, also being safe and mindful.
That's definitely, yeah. I think, and hopefully these businesses that are opening these consumption lounges will definitely keep that at the top of their mind.
Oh yeah.
I think they will have to. It'll be, people are going to be more aware and more conscious of these kind of how we move forward, you know, whether it's with
Oh, I
events,
think so.
consumption lounges, all of that.
Yeah. No, this impacted many people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, and now the final article is this one is one of my favorite topics. The title is California Bill Allowing Pot Farmers to Sell Directly at Farmers Market Advances. So consumers would soon be able to buy cannabis directly from cultivators at farmers markets, just like they do for their produce, under legislation that was approved Tuesday by the State Assembly Committee on Business and Professions. The push to allow small farmers to sell directly comes as the cultivators are seeing their most daunting financial challenges since the legalization of cannabis in 2018. Now, the legislation still needs to clear the Assembly Appropriations Committee and the full Assembly chamber, and then go through the Senate before reaching the governor's desk. Still, we all need to recognize it is a step forward, and it has pleased several dozen farmers that showed up for Tuesday's vote. The bill will only allow farmers to sell I think it's supposed to say an eighth to sell at, oh no, never mind. Okay, the bill only allows farmers to sell at 8 cannabis farmers markets a year. But Callahan and other farmers see it as a way to add their profits in difficult times by allowing them to collect the fees normally paid to distributor, middlemen, and dispensaries. Now, rereading that, I don't get why the 8, why the number, you know, why they're limited. But again, I like that we have to look at what we're getting, you know. We're getting 8 at least for the farm.
know, that's the thing with legislation, right? Is it's always a compromise. I mean, with politics, it's always a compromise. Yeah. So just like with 64, and that's been argued both for and against, right? Yeah. And the argument for was just trying to get something. And so it is really important to make sure that you're looking at the fine print of things that you're getting passed, because sometimes it can be really difficult to actually change it. You always think, oh, well, we'll just get it passed and we'll change it later. But sometimes that takes longer than if you had just actually rewritten it and gotten it passed right in the first place, even though that might take a little longer than now. I think that this is amazing. I think it's a great step forward. I think that cannabis should be considered a crop, same as anything else. I do think that it needs to be tested. I would want it still to be tested for people. You know, I did spend some time working in a lab and definitely finding out, yeah, you don't want to inhale certain things. Sometimes it can be more detrimental than it can be beneficial, and that we deserve to know what those levels are and where that is. But I also really think that it is a great opportunity for us to look at it as a crop, and that it's a moment for unification with the CBD and the THC market as well, who, were very much at odds last year with AB 45 and trying to gain parity, and that passed. Now that means that CBD is subjected to the same testing that THC is. And that means a lot more expense for those CBD businesses. And for that, I'm sorry, but at the same time, we have to come together and ask for fair treatment of this plant as a whole, because it is medicine, whichever form it takes, it's medicine. So I love that that is something that people in power have felt is a fair approach to the response that our craft farmers are struggling and not able to survive right now. Hearing how many more, groups it needs to get passed through is a little disheartening, because I know what that means in the reality. But it means people are listening. That's true. And that's good. So yeah, we need to just keep talking about it. And if we need to, if more people need to talk about this and talk about this loudly in order for it to move a little more quickly, that would be great.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that is definitely key. Like you said, there are quite a few more areas.
There's lives at stake. Yes. There's legacies at stake.
Exactly.
That's the part, before all this cannabis, doing culture, like corporate culture and building legacy, talking about brand and really what that means and what are you building as a sustainable business, legacy is everything. Yeah. And so to hear these stories of these people who it's, you know, it was their grandparents' farm. Mm-hmm. Or it was the farm that they found and stumbled 15 years ago after like a life-altering change, and it's what brought them back to life. Yeah. That's a lifetime too.
Yes, exactly.
And so it deserves to last.
No, you're right. You bring up good points. And yeah, this is something, you know, every minute counts the longer this does take, because we are continuing to lose a lot of the legacy farmers and general and family owned farms. So I think you're right. If we have to get louder, that's something that needs to be discussed. But now, you know, that brings us to the end of this segment. You know, before we let you go, do you have any final announcements you'd like to share with everyone, or just a reminder of how they can connect with you?
I mean, definitely, you know, come tune in. I've got a great lineup for May. It's going to be a month of great lives. I'm live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. PST on Instagram. And come check out the website. There's going to be a lot of changes coming up. My offerings are getting more clear. I think that was definitely one of the things I struggled with a bit when the show left was, what am I doing now? And in working with so many wonderful clients the last few months behind the scenes, have gotten more clear on how to be able to share that with other people. So tune in, subscribe. I've got a lot more coming up. Excited to see people at G4 Live in Vegas in a couple weeks. And, you know, oh, good. Really? Oh, big hugs. I can't wait to give you the biggest hugs.
Yes, we'll have some fun. Hopefully we'll see more of you all there at G4 Live in Vegas.
Yes.
Well, thank you again so much for joining. And it was just so good to have you on. And, you know, again, I just want to commend you on the community that you have built and are continuing to build. And also just seeing the rippling effect of the impact, you know. So keep moving forward, keep building the community and helping all these businesses connect. You know, that's what we need to make sure is that we continue the conversation about collaboration so that we can all move this forward.
That's it. Yes. Thanks. Thank you so much, Delia.
Of course. Now, before I let you all go, we have our final announcements for today. So next week's guest is Taylor Blake. She is the associate producer of the Emerald Cup, and we're going to be diving into the Emerald Cup and all the cannabis events and culture that they have evolved throughout the Emerald Cup as well. And then our highlight event of the week is the Cannabis Wedding Expo. The Cannabis Wedding Expo is in San Francisco. It is happening on Sunday, May 1st. So this upcoming Sunday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. A little bit about this event is cultivate the wedding of your dreams at the Cannabis Wedding Expo. You're going to meet face-to-face with the best and most innovative wedding professionals in the cannabis industry. There is much to explore with endless displays catering to the full journey of your wedding planning experience, from live entertainment, bud bars, product launches, giveaways, Instagrammable activations, goodie bags, and an immersive fashion show. So if you're interested in learning more, visit eventhi.io and check out Cannabis Wedding Expo. Again, their upcoming one is in San Francisco, but they do have quite a lineup for the year, and you can find all those events on Eventhi. And with that being said, I just want to thank you all again for joining us for this week's Cannabis Events Talk Show. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay high. Bye.